Let's talk Alonso then, because we're moving on from the game now. I think we've covered every big theme from that game. We want to talk Xabi Alonso. Doyle, a massive win for him at the weekend, moving 5 points clear of the Bundesliga. I don't think people quite... I was talking to Gorsty on the phone before about this. I was thinking, don't think people quite recognise the achievement that would be if he can beat, and there's still a long way to go, and we've seen teams with bigger leads collapse in the Bundesliga and Bayern's machine sort of...
Do you mean Dortmund?
Through there, Dortmund, yeah. But he'd be the first manager, wouldn't he, correct me if I'm wrong, to break up that... I think Bayern Munich have won it every season since Klopp departed.
Yeah.
So he'd be the first manager to break that monopoly up. Second, they call them Leverkusen. Not Neva, because that wouldn't work.
Leverkusen, which is interesting because obviously they're German, and that's not the German word for never.
Yeah.
I don't know what the German word for never is. I did German at GCSE, but I know it's not never.
I don't think that's the interesting bit. I think the interesting bit would be if he won the title with...
I think... excuse me. So let's ask our producer which was more interesting.
No comment. But it... You know, I think it would be such a massive achievement. But they won that game. They won it in impressive fashion. I mean, what he's doing there is really, really impressive. And it's not just because he's an ex-Liverpool player that he's being linked. Where with Gerrard, I often thought just the emotional connection was the link.
Did win the league with Rangers, to be fair.
He did. But with Alonso, it seems to be a really good body of work that means that he is...
Well, he's only been there. He's not even been there. Is it a year now? Is it you? Was it? Yeah. So, I mean, by the end of the season, it'll be 18 months. You know, so I could count the calendar years, months even. And with Alonso, it's funny, if you want to know an example of how big a deal it is that Bayer Leverkusen are doing that well, if they'd have lost that game, they'd have gone to second. And they've had this season where they've not lost a single game and drawn about 2 or 3, and that's it. And still they've not been able to get away from Bayern Munich until winning that game, which obviously 3-0. Fairly convincingly. Always good to see a goal where Chris Beasley, our colleague, would be made up at that last goal because the goalkeeper had gone up and left his goal unattended, which is a word we don't say a lot. But yeah, I think for Alonso, the big thing is what's going to happen over the next couple of months, because he's got to get this over the line now. I think they're still in the cup, aren't they? I mean, you would expect Bayern to win almost every single game between now and the end of the season because of who they are.
Yeah.
And it's just it'll be an interesting test of his... It is a test of his managerial ability, isn't it? It's one thing, to set up a team, you know to be this, that, and all the other, and you know the players, but then it's actually the last bit of, right, and now we need to try and win something. I need to take a team, certainly one against the odds, to go and win something. That's the hard bit.
Yeah. Well, since I think Houllier was appointed, Liverpool have always appointed managers with silverware on their CV. Rodgers was the one, wasn't he? That didn't have. I think did he have the championship?
No, I don't think he did.
They got through the playoffs, didn't they? So I suppose
if you could Rodgers win anything,
Roy Hodgson. You can't argue with his record at Malmo, can you?
Yeah.
What those other? What's the Swiss team whose name I can't remember?
Neuchâtel Xamax.
That's it. Yeah, you can't argue with his record there. But Rodgers was the one, and I always felt from the beginning with Rodgers there wasn't the support from him from fans because he didn't have that in his CV. Whereas Alonso, if he can get it,
I think with Rodgers as well is that going to Anfield, taking over at Liverpool, he was like using it as a finishing school for himself as a manager. And you can't really do that. And I think while Alonso is obviously a young manager, he's not young at dealing with massive teams because he's been at Bayern, Real Madrid, and Liverpool. And I mentioned this before, it's the Zidane thing, Zidane taking over at Real Madrid after about a year at Castilla, I think it was, and it was like, well, what's he doing that for? He's had no experience. He's like, well, yeah, but he's played for Real Madrid for a lot of years. He knows exactly what that dressing room's like. He knows exactly what to expect. He knows all about the pressure. So he's probably the best person who could probably do it. There might be better managers low down the league at getting things, from teams who shouldn't really be doing that. But that doesn't really help you when you walk into somewhere like Real Madrid. And I think obviously Liverpool aren't set up the same way as Real Madrid, but Alonso will know exactly what to expect. Whereas perhaps somebody else who's linked with the job perhaps does not.
Yeah, I look at Alonso and I think, obviously when Liverpool got Klopp, he was one of the most sought after managers on the planet. Him and Ancelotti were the two that I think most Liverpool fans were sort of wishing for at the time when he came in. But Klopp, you look at Klopp's record, he won 2 Bundesliga titles, the German Cup. He obviously got to the Champions League final, ended in heartbreak. His personality was the sort of, almost is beyond the trophies. It was his personality that was the unique selling point. Alonso, and he's also taken Mainz up. Alonso's record, if he does win the Bundesliga, won't be too dissimilar to Klopp's. You know, he'd have one Bundesliga title with a team that was massive underdogs, taking a team from also runs to title challenges and winners. He took Real Sociedad B. It was their first promotion, I think, in 50 years to the second division in Spain. So that's sort of your Mainz. So, and then he has the personality and the affection with the Liverpool crowd. So it does sort of all make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's weird, really, because I think usually when there's sort of you know, a manager leaving, you have a list of 5 or 6 candidates who you feel have maybe sort of really strong or potentially really strong contenders. And I think, you know, some of the candidates on the market now, Zidane, is proven that he can win trophies at Real Madrid, but I don't necessarily think he would be the right fit for Liverpool. And I think, you know, Alonso might not have won as much. How many Champions Leagues has Zidane won as manager? 3, is it?
I think it was 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he won the 3 on the trot.
Yeah.
So even though sort of the silverware sort of trumps what Alonso has done so far, I think the fact that he has the potential to do something really, really special this season, coupled with that sort of the romantic element of his, you know, a player who was adored by Liverpool fans and will therefore be probably given a little bit more time, I think, if things don't go to plan. And I think as well, you know, this Liverpool team is still quite new, isn't it? It's still sort of in its early stages, which is why it's so impressive that they're where they are this season, why Ian Doyle perhaps thought they were going to finish 5th. So to bring in an exciting young manager as well, you know, hopefully to be able to sort of make his real sort of mark on the team would be really exciting.
Yeah, someone in the comments has said, do you think Bayern might try and snatch him before Liverpool do? And Bayer Leverkusen's chief executive said at the weekend that he thinks that he will end up staying put.
Talk about his fans to say that, isn't he?
No, I don't know, because sometimes in German clubs, I think they're quite.
They have to say stuff like that but they have to say stuff like that when they are still competing on 3 fronts. And the other complication is that Bayer Leverkusen could well end up playing Liverpool in the Europa League. Sure, so absolutely, they can't. They're not going to say anything.
The point I was trying to get to is, do you think Liverpool have a bigger, and if they do go for Alonso, they have a bigger fight in their hands, perhaps to persuade him, because he is quite. Obviously, the Liverpool job will be very attractive to him, but it won't be the only job offer, I'm sure, that will come his way. And secondly, he does seem quite a sensible guy, and seems. I remember Klopp being linked with a number of clubs. I mean, he famously turned United down, didn't he? Or did they turn? I think he turned United down earlier in his career because he didn't feel he was ready. Alonso almost strikes me as that sort of. He'll have the confidence in his own ability to say no, not yet, if he doesn't feel like it's the right time. Do you think there's a chance this could be quite a big fight to persuade him?
Not really, because whoever takes over is going to end up getting a really good Liverpool team, which is unusual, because the last time somebody came from the outside and had a good Liverpool team to take over is never. So, there you go.
I think in a way, Liverpool. I think certainly if he wins the Bundesliga, Liverpool is probably the perfect club for him, because I think, you know, you go to Bayern and instantly the expectation, particularly if they've not won it the year before, is to win the league. That's sort of a non-negotiable, where it's not quite the same as Liverpool. Liverpool, obviously, fans want you to win the league, but if you don't, it's not a crisis. Where at Bayern. So I think the only other club that could sort of trump Liverpool to it would be Real Madrid. Now, they extended Ancelotti's contract last year, I want to say, I think.
Certainly it was recently.
Yeah, fairly recently. And I almost think that at this stage of his career, Real Madrid might be too big for him. I think, not that he wouldn't be capable of doing the job, he could go there and be a huge success, but I think Liverpool is big enough that it can, you know, really elevate his status and take him to the next level as a manager, but not big enough that it's going to ruin his career if it doesn't all go to plan.
Yeah.
Also, I think he's got a greater affinity for Liverpool than he has at Real Madrid and Bayern Munich.
He has a great affinity for Liverpool. Do you think so? Yeah. I think
not Real Madrid.
Nope.
No. Why did you say that?
I've just said that.
I was going to ask you before we move on from Alonso.
I based that on, I saw an interview when he was talking about it. I can't remember where I saw it, but he definitely did say.
Yeah. Well, you will be one of the people old enough here to have dealt with Alonso as a player.
Yes.
What was he like?
Would you like to hear, given the fact I was going to say funny story, but now that the bar's been set so high, not funny story.
What was the bar set so high by?
With the whole Leverkusen thing, yeah.
I don't think that if you tune into this podcast for comedy, I don't know whether that would be a cup of tea. But anyway, go on.
Well, we used to speak to him in the mix zone because obviously his English wasn't absolutely brilliant. It's very good now, by the way, I have to say. It was very good by the time he left. Yeah. But he would always be concentrating very much on what you were asking him. So the look on his face was always as though he was talking to an idiot. Like he thought I was one, which to be fair, he's not far off. But
it's the same look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and anybody watching this at the moment. But no, as I say, he was very, very good, very knowledgeable, very polite, which I've always got a lot of time for. Politeness from footballers. And
looks a polite man, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Very stylish as well.
He's a what did he say? Dreamboat? Is he a dreamboat?
He's a gorgeous man.
He is, basically,
yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
And I think as well, there was a lot made of the weekend about after that win and bringing his backroom staff onto the pitch and making sure they got sort of a round of applause from the fans as well, which is a very Klopp thing to do.
A lot of Arsenal fans made a big deal of that, didn't they? Say, no, look at this. This is why I've been able to go at them. And well, he didn't pick up a camera and start snapping people and dancing along to ABBA, did he?
But I think there's probably a sense that he's a very Liverpool manager, and maybe this is maybe a bit too romantic, but that transition from Bill Shankly to Bob Paisley to a enigmatic manager, but still a little bit quieter, not quite as big a character. There maybe are some parallels between Klopp and Alonso in that sense.
I'm all in on Alonso's. Just very quick question, Alonso themed. I remember his debut very, very clearly. It was Norwich, wasn't it, Anfield, and he just the way he sprayed the ball around was like, it was one of those debuts that you went, wow, you almost the second he got the ball, sprayed a couple of passes around, you thought, this guy has got great class. Do you remember his debut?
No, I can't remember.
No. I was just going to ask, are there any other players' debuts like that you remember from the moment they got the ball, you're thinking, oh God, they've got a player here?
Harvey Elliott. I've mentioned it before, yeah. But to be fair, that was against Oldham in the EFL Trophy. Yeah, not quite the same.
Yeah. Any bigger names than
was Darwin Núñez in the Community Shield?
Yeah, well, I wasn't thinking like, he's going to be the greatest player ever at that point. To be fair,
I was when he whipped his shirt off.
That's a good question there. Talk between yourselves, have a think.
God. Trying to think.
We can't have dead space. I'll talk.
What I will tell you, I was going to say, I can tell you what his best performance at Liverpool was, and that was against Everton. Everton in the 3-1 derby where Liverpool Gerrard got sent off really early on, and then it was up to him to step it up, and I thought he was very, very good on that day. That was his best.
Virgil van Dijk. Scored against Everton on his debut, didn't he? Yeah,
but that was very much like a goal a moment. With Alonso, it was more like from the moment he got the ball. This is what I'm wrong about. It wasn't his debut, so it kind of doesn't really count.
Oh, brilliant! So what are you talking about?
I remember Andy
His debut was against Tottenham, wasn't it? It was Tottenham, wasn't it? Away?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't at that one either.
Home debut, sorry, I was talking about. But I remember Andy Carroll scoring twice against Man City and thinking, yeah, we got the next Shearer. Lovely.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was fully on board with Andy Carroll. I really thought Liverpool had a great player.
There's nothing wrong. Well, again, what did he do?
He scored a great goal at Wembley that would be a very good memory for me. So yeah.
Who was Thiago's debut against? I remember his first few times I saw him play, thinking like, wow, he's a different
Thiago came on against Chelsea.
Yeah,
they got the virus.
Yeah,
Diaz, he's one.
Yeah,
he had a good first game.
The great name, Spit Roasted Penguin, has said, didn't Andy Carroll? Twice in his home debut against City 3-0. Well, Peter,
we just knocked him out on that.
He did. He's got a great header and a long-range left-footed effort, and I thought, great left foot, great in the air. Liverpool have got some player here, put him together with Suarez, and nothing will stop us. A lot of things stopped us, but yeah. Anyway. Quick before we wrap this up. Thanks, Spit Roast, for that one. Blue cards. You want to talk blue cards?
Blue cards, ridiculous idea. Sin bin's not a bad idea, but only if they're going to replace yellow cards, which they never will. Having another card just makes the game even more complicated and puts more power into the referee's hands. And when they should be concentrating on streamlining the rules so they can implement them more effectively. Next question.